The memories of a man who built more than just a football club. Out of the ravages of war, Matt Busby created a world-famous institution, making the name Manchester United synonymous with craft, class and style. Out of the rubble of a dreadful accident, he rebuilt the dynasty in the same glamorous, gladiatorial image. But before Busby, the beginnings. Newton Heath LYR was formed in 1878 by carriage and wagon workers at Manchester's Lancashire and Yorkshire railway sheds. Their green and gold shirts reflected pride in their football and in their origins. They changed at the Three Crowns Inn, Oldham Road, walking to their first pitch on North Road. Sam Black was their first real star. And within 10 years, the Heathens had attracted overseas opposition, a signpost to the future. In 1892, Newton Heath were runners-up in the Old Football Alliance and elected to the extended First Division of the Football League. 2 years later, now at a new ground in Bank Street, Clayton, they were relegated. But in 1898, they won the Lancashire Senior Cup. In 1902, John H. Davis, a Manchester brewer, rescued Newton Heath from bankruptcy. Harry Stafford, the club captain, let his dog run loose at a fundraising bazaar. Davis's 12-year-old daughter, Elsie, wanted to keep it, and she unwittingly launched Manchester United.
So Harry Stafford thought for a long, long time. He said, well, I adore my dog. And he said, I adore my team as well. But, well, he said, what would you do, Mr. Davis? He said, well, I would take it over completely, furbish you with a brand new team, and you would still be retained as captain, and we'd make the ground decent, and everything would be made all right for you. Now, if I do that, will you let me have the dog? So Harry Stafford said, well, under those circumstances, we'd make it a bargain. So the bargain was made in the morning room at Moseley Hall, Cheadle, where we lived. And Harry Stafford went away very happy. And on my 12th birthday, he came back with the dog.
As chairman of the renamed club, Davis injected capital and lured J. Ernest Mangnall from Burnley as secretary-manager. He signed Billy Meredith, the Welsh wizard from neighbours Manchester City. Billy was often seen with a toothpick and a cigarette. Promoted in 1906, Manchester United were First Division champions 2 years later. They were 9 points clear of runners-up Aston Villa and well ahead of what the cartoonist of the day depicted as the other stragglers. Most of United's team helped form the Players' Union, calling themselves the outcasts when forced to train away from the club. United's love affair with the FA Cup began in 1909 when they beat Bristol City in the final at Crystal Palace. Charlie Roberts was centre-half and captain, and the only goal came from Sandy Turnbull, part of a team which included his namesake Jimmy with Harold House in attack, Duckworth and Bell as celebrated wing halves. Davis then took United to a sparkling new stadium at Old Trafford. 50,000 saw the first match there in February 1910, Liverpool winning 4-3. But in 1911 it was United, not Liverpool, who won the championship, their second in 4 seasons. Enoch Knocker West, seen here behind Sandy Turnbull, got 19 goals, keeping United ahead of all their rivals, including then unfashionable clubs like Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur. J.J. Bentley, a former Football League president, took over as secretary when Mangnall left for Manchester City. But Bentley died and United's accomplished team declined as the city itself faced the Great War. John Chapman's spell as manager saw United relegated and promoted. Clary Hilditch at wing half was now an influential figure, as was centre-half Frank Barson, who was signed from Aston Villa. And up front, a man who made nearly 500 appearances for United, Joe Spence. Herbert Bamlett became manager in 1927, and in his first season, United reached the 6th round of the FA Cup, running out to face Blackburn Rovers at Ewood Park. This was the season United switched permanently to their traditional colours of red shirts and white shorts. But on the day, it was the then more famous blue and white halves who were victorious. Blackburn won 2-0 and went on to lift the cup. The cameras were at Old Trafford the following season to capture the resumption of the Manchester derby. City in the light shirts had just come out of the second division and were about to enter a halcyon period in their history. They beat United 2-1 before a packed house, and in 1931, United were again relegated. Now they faced another financial crisis. J.W. Jimmy Gibson was their saviour this time. The founder of a clothing firm, he became chairman and reconstructed the club. Walter Crickmer had begun a sterling spell of 30 years as secretary, and they appointed a new manager, Scott Duncan. But United nearly fell into Division 3 in 1934, the year a certain Matt Busby won an FA Cup medal with Manchester City. Little did Matt know, as he puffed his cigarette on the victory parade through the streets of Manchester, that he would one day breathe life into the rival club. Before that, he would play for Liverpool and develop his qualities as a leader when he captained Scotland in wartime. As for Manchester United, they were second division champions in 1936, went down again a year later, and came back to the first division in 1938. They were a cartoonist's delight in those days, and they introduced into their team a young wing half who, like Busby, would be a significant influence on post-war football.
We were up and down in those days. We were called the Yo-Yo Club, you know, first division one season and down in the second division again. Some marvellous characters in the team. There was Jimmy Brown, our captain, who was a remarkable man, what I call perpetual motion player, always zipping about, doing everything, working hard. We had a Tommy Bamford who played centre forward, who did a unique thing which I haven't seen since his day. He could backhead a ball and score goals. It was quite phenomenal. He'd score about 5 goals a season with a backheader.
Two 19-year-olds, Stan Pearson and the Dubliner Johnny Carey, were in the 1938 team with Jack Rowley, then only 17. But the Second World War intervened. Old Trafford was hit by a German bomb in 1941, and 4 years later, a new manager took over a burned-out club.
First of all, I was sent a letter from the head scout, Mr. Louis Roque, who was a fantastic character. And he said, actually, Mr. Gibson, who was then the chairman, would like to see me with a view to becoming manager of the club, team manager of the club. Jimmy Gibson was there, and of course he wanted me to become manager, and I said, well, I'd think about it. And but before the interview was over, I had finished up saying for Manchester United.
And he remained manager for 25 years. His first major signing was Jimmy Delaney from Celtic. And for 4 seasons under Carey's captaincy, United played their home games on City's ground at Main Road, while awaiting war damage compensation for Old Trafford. They were runners-up in the First Division 3 years running, and in 1948, 74,000 saw them beat Preston 4-1 at Main Road in the FA Cup 6th round. The semi-final at Sheffield was a personal triumph for inside left Stan Pearson. He scored a hat-trick against Derby County, and Busby's first United team were bound for Wembley. Names like John Aston, Allenby Chilton, Johnny Morris, Jack Crompton and Charlie Mitten became familiar in newspapers and on radio, where Sports Report started in 1948. Pearson left the Hillsborough pitch to a great ovation. United were in the final.
The All Lancashire finalists take the field at Wembley. Manchester United in dark shirts, Blackpool in white. It's the North's big day. Sunshine warms the stadium and 100,000 spectators settle themselves for an afternoon's enjoyment as the King greets the players with a friendly handshake. Manchester kick-off. Renowned slow starters, their match-winning attack seems to have lost the rhythm that has brought them along the road to Wembley. A close duel between Manchester's Johnny Carey and Blackpool's Walter Rickett, number 11, is highlight number 1 in a thrill-packed match. Highlight number 2 comes when Stan Mortensen is tripped in the penalty area and referee Barrick awards Blackpool a spot kick. As the crowd rise to cheer, Eddie Shimmo drives it home to give the Seasiders the lead. Manchester's Jack Rowley, walking the ball into the net to equalise, provides highlight number 3. Blackpool, settling down quicker than Manchester, are overcoming their Wembley nerves. From a free kick and a seemingly impossible angle, Stanley Mortensen whips in a goal to give Blackpool the half-time lead. Blackpool kick off, confidently hoping that their 2-1 lead will bring them football's most coveted prize. But now Manchester's attack, which has scored 95 goals this season, swings into its best style. From Johnny Morris's well-placed free kick, the fans cheer Jack Rowley's headed equaliser. With the score at 2-2, Blackpool are again on the attack. Stanley Matthews, who has been shut out effectively, beats Manchester's Johnny Aston, but the Seasiders finishing his poor. Charlie Midden, number 11, starts off United's winning attack, and from Rowley's pass, Stan Pearson scores the goal that gives Manchester the cup. The King hands the silver trophy to skipper Johnny Carey. Their 4-2 victory, snatched in the last few minutes, gives Manchester United the reward they richly deserve.
The following season, very different opposition. Alex Stock brought non-league giant killers Yeovil Town to Main Road to face United in the 5th round. Over 80,000 saw Jack Rowley score 5 of United's 8 goals. But their hopes of retaining the cup were dashed when they lost to Wolves in a semi-final replay. In the summer of 1950, United broke new ground. They played Mexican opponents in Los Angeles during a tour of the United States. The worldwide reputation of Manchester United was growing. But they were happy to be back in their real home. 55,000 were inside Old Trafford for the 5th round cup tie against Arsenal in 1951. Pearson scored the only goal here, but United then lost to Birmingham. Busby's team had been runners-up 4 times in 5 years, and in 1952 at last won the championship. The likes of Carey and Coburn were supported by younger players like John Berry and Roger Byrne. But the bulk of the side was getting old. When United secured the title with a 6-1 victory over Arsenal to finish 4 points clear of the Gunners and Tottenham, it marked a fitting climax to Carey's career. Tottenham figured in United's summer plans that year. The teams met on tour in New York's Yankee Stadium and again in Toronto. Spurs won both matches handsomely, and the following season, United slipped to 8th. However, United's juniors won the inaugural FA Youth Cup, and in October 1953, Busby decided the time was right to take the wraps off the boys he had shrewdly groomed for the future.
It started playing in my mind. We'd had a lot of success at that time. I felt as though I had to do something with a view to becoming another team, to get young players, get players going. And my main problem at that time was when and where to bring them in. Mm-hmm. And I always remember Johnny Carey was the captain at the time, and I mentioned this matter to him sometime, and he said, he says, whenever you feel ready, the lads will go along with it, and because they realise that they're getting towards the end.
Murphy was out on the field there with about 7 or 8 youngsters. And one of them, they did little set pieces and things like that, and then broke it up. And it was the end, and some of them went in. One lad started running around the track. And I sat and I watched him, and he went round. He must have gone round about 12 bloody times. So I went down and I said to Jimmy Murphy, I said, "Who's that lad?" I can cry, man. Duncan Edwards, he said, 16 years of age. Like, no, that did it. Fantastic. He said, the best player you've ever seen. Duncan was sensational. I can't say too much in praise of him. In my opinion, he was potentially the best player the world would ever have seen.
By now, United had signed Tommy Taylor from Barnsley, and names like Ray Wood, Jackie Blanchflower, Bill Foulkes, David Pegg and Dennis Viollet, seen here scoring in a cup defeat at Turf Moor, were regularly on the team sheet. The old guard were disappearing. When Manchester City beat United 2-0 at Main Road in the 4th round of the Cup in 1955, only Jack Rowley and Alan Chilton were left from United's 1948 team. It was a sad end for Chilton. The fans saw him sent off following an incident with City's Don Revie. Now the new Manchester United were ready for an assault on the First Division Championship.
United go ahead. Once again, the dark shirts. Dark shirts going into the attack. Scanlon taking it forward. Comes Violet. Violet with the ball going through. Violet shoots. Violet's about to shoot. He's put it past. He's gone wide.
United's closest rivals were Blackpool, and with 3 games to go, the teams met at Old Trafford. United 1 down, Eddie Coleman on the ball.
United now down to 10 men. Tommy Taylor having gone off to put Duncan Edwards up at centre forward, throwing everything on the attack. And there's Berry getting them going. Berry number 7 with the ball. Still United on the attack. And there's a great chance there for Violet. This time it's a penalty. Berry took the penalty, and that makes the score 1-1. Pegg with it out on the left wing. All the United forwards up. Violet. Cross to Berry. It comes on the right wing. Blackpool defence trying the offside game. It's Berry going through with it by himself. Cross it comes, and Tom's made a perfect hit. That's it. It's a fake hit. It's a goal. It's a goal. This is the goal that should give them the championship.
I said it. This was not a Scottish game, it was not an English game, it was not an Irish game, it was a world game. And in view of that, I influenced them to join the European Association's European Company with a view to playing the European Cup.
Floodlights at Main Road, Manchester. Having lost 3-5 in Bilbao, United must beat their opponents by 3 clear goals to reach the semi-finals of the European Cup. They begin with an opening offensive that already seems to point the way to victory. But Atletico de Bilbao are renowned as a crack Spanish 11, and Manchester knows it only too well. 4 minutes before half-time, Manchester's Violet goes through, and it's a goal! After the interval, we saw some dangerous Bilbao attacks, and we were glad we weren't defending the Manchester goal. United weren't long in reversing the situation, taking the ball into Bilbao's half. Jones gives Carmelo a bump, but Bilbao's goalie isn't easily put off, although he can't keep it up forever. Manchester's second came from a free kick, Taylor doing the rest. He and Berry made the third, and Manchester was set for the semi-finals.
2 semi-finals, in fact, because United were going for a treble in 1957. Hillsborough the setting here.
Manchester United, favourites on form, looked dangerous right away. Quickly, outside right, John Berry worked in from the wing, put in a hard drive, and scored. One up after 13 minutes, Manchester gave Birmingham no time to recover from the shock. United were pressing hard when Pegg hooked the ball back from the goal line and Charlton cracked it in.
United's babes were bursting with vitality. No frontier frightened them. Next stop, Madrid, for the semi-final of the European Cup, in the breathtaking Bernabeu Stadium with its 134,000 crowd. United were defeated by Di Stefano's team, but not overawed. Tommy Taylor's header gave them hope for the second leg.
European Cup semi-final, second leg. Madrid won the first encounter by 3-1, so United must get 3 clear goals in this match to reach the final. Real Madrid race across the Old Trafford turf, and Matt Busby's boys and their 60,000 fans realise it's not going to be easy. But by golly, they're going to do their darndest. After 25 minutes, Copa takes a pass in the penalty area and shoots a low one. So began 9 minutes of dramatic, decisive soccer. Here's Madrid's second. Hento passes, Real shoots. Too easy. On come the floodlights for the second half. Manchester, 4 goals down in the aggregate, need a miracle to save them. Is this it? Peg centres. Taylor does the rest. Real are a splendid soccer machine and one of the leading continental sides, while Manchester United, of course, are league champions, second year running, and FA Cup finalists. Another peg pass, and Charlton scores a beauty. They've equalised, but it's farewell to European Cup hopes.
And to United's hopes of a League and Cup double. At Wembley, they were victims of controversy.
Mascot to Sewell. McParland. And that was a fair charge, but unfortunately their heads have collided. And both McParland and Wood are out. Ray Wood carried off on a stretcher after that collision with McParland. And Jackie Blanchflower going to don the green sweater and going goal. Burn to Whelan. Smith. Once again it's Whelan, and once again it's Smith. Now Dixon. McParland, it's a goal by McParland. Minutes of the second half gone. Peter McParland has put Aston Villa into the lead, 1-0. Rather, McParland, Dixon, post it, no! McParland has scored again. Ray Wood's in there too. Taylor, a goal! Taylor has scored! 2 goals to 1 now.
The Babes missed out on their chance to become the first team this century to do the double. United fans have never forgiven McParland's reckless challenge. But at the start of 1957-58, United's form had supporters eyeing a championship hat-trick. The very mention of the name United brought a warm glow to those who watched them play.
Take out the number 10 Edwards. This equalising goal must come. And there it is! Yes, it's a great goal! It's scored by Coleman!
They had great players who had great depth right throughout. And it was a sort of a family atmosphere at the club, you know, that you wanted to be there, you were part of Man United. Everybody thought that they were pioneer in Europe, and it was so exciting, and it was phenomenal to watch. Every ground, everywhere we played was full. Even youth team matches, you know, 20, 23, 25,000 at youth team matches. They were erecting the floodlights in the summer. I always remember this, between seasons. And I went down once, and I saw this bus load of people, and they were at the ground, you see, and I thought, well, bus, what's the bus come for? You know, there's no games. And I went across, and I said, what are you lads doing? You know, are you on a trip or something? He said, yeah, he says. I said, well, what have you come to see? Because there was no museum then, there was nothing else. You couldn't go in the ground and have a look around. And he says, it's been 2 months since we saw a match down here. We thought we'd come and see them put the floodlights up.
United were chasing 3 trophies again. In the European Cup quarter-final, they took a 2-1 lead to Belgrade, where they scored 3 times in a scintillating first-half display. Violet got the first, the second and the third both came from 20-year-old Bobby Charlton. Although Red Stars scored 3 themselves in the second half, United went through on a 5-4 aggregate. Everybody remembers exactly where they were the following day.
On the fringe of a Munich airport lies the wreckage of an airliner, still smouldering from a crash in which 21 people were killed. Tragedy enough at any time. But in that plane were a group of young men who were almost the personal friends of millions. Manchester United, the finest soccer team Britain has produced since the war.
8 players died. Mark Jones, Roger Byrne, Jeff Bent, Eddie Coleman, David Pegg, Tommy Taylor, Liam Billy Whelan, and later in hospital, the great Duncan Edwards. Also dead, trainer Tom Curry, coach Bert Wally, secretary Walter Crickmer. 8 journalists, 2 other passengers, and 2 crew members. Munich claimed 23 lives. In the Rex-der-Isar hospital, Busby fought for life as his assistant Jimmy Murphy learned the worst.
And the first time I heard about the crash was after the match, coming back in the taxi from town, from Piccadilly. And strange, everything was so quiet, I didn't know. Everything was so quiet in the streets and God knows what, very few traffic about, not much traffic at all. And then when I got to the ground, we had a person called Alma George, who was Matt's secretary. And come have a drink, Alma. And she said, and she started crying. I said, what's wrong with you? They said, we had a crash. Haven't you heard? No. And it never struck me at all, never struck me in the slightest. And then I gave it a drink and I had one, and then it struck me forcibly. The plane had really crashed. That's the first instigation I had, despite coming through town and God knows what, was when I got to the ground and upstairs there with Alma, and I went into the office, little office on the side there, and I cried, literally cried to the lads.
Manchester's mourning was shared across the world. As the bodies were brought back, there was a feeling of irreparable loss. 13 days after the crash, 11 blank spaces in the programme. A patched-up Manchester United, made up of untried youngsters and emergency signings, faced Sheffield Wednesday in the 5th round of the FA Cup on a night of highly charged emotion at Old Trafford. Murphy was among 60,000 people inside the ground who saw reserve fullback Shay Brennan, playing at outside left, score the first 2 goals. When Dawson made it 3, those in the dressing room had assured those still in hospital that the club would go on. Bobby Charlton was back from Munich for the 6th round against West Brom, making the winning goal for Colin Webster. And the semi-final also went to a replay. At Highbury, United had 18-year-old Alex Dawson to thank for a hat-trick in the 5-3 win over Fulham. Dawson had been a youth team player weeks earlier. Phoenix-like, United had risen from the ashes to reach Wembley. Professor Maurer and his staff from the hospital in Munich were guests at Old Trafford in March, as United's followers expressed their appreciation for the way the German medical team had tended the wounded, especially Busby, who sent a taped message to the crowd.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am speaking from my bed in the Isar Hospital, Munich, where I have been since the tragic accident of just over a month ago. You will be glad, I am sure, to know that the remaining players here and myself are now considered out of danger. And this can be attributed to the wonderful treatment and attention given us by Professor Maurer and his wonderful staff, who are with you today as guests of the club.
Soon afterwards, his wife Jean welcomed Busby home. Physically unsteady and mentally shaken, he was 48 at the time, Matt convalesced with the help of cinefilm from Old Trafford, where Murphy's hastily constructed team prepared for the cup final against Bolton. Busby was just fit enough to go to Wembley.
Corner for Bolton, taken by Holden. Parry. Fowler out to Edwards. Lofthouse a goal! And Lofthouse to score. 10 minutes of the second half gone. 1-0, Bolton leading. Holden to Parry. Holden, number 11. Stevens, Edwards, to Stevens. A goal by Lofthouse.
As Nat Lofthouse led his Bolton team up to receive the cup, United was still complaining about his seemingly illegal challenge on Harry Gregg, a Munich survivor. For the 2nd year running, United's cup final dream had been poleaxed along with their goalkeeper. Now Busby had to pick himself up and rebuild. Wing half Maurice Setters came from West Brom. Young Johnny Giles got his first team chance. Albert Quicksall from Sheffield Wednesday became a United favourite. David Hurd was signed from Arsenal. And there was still the experienced Dennis Viollet, whose 32 league goals in 1959-60 remain a United record. Later that year, Nobby Stiles made his debut and made a goal.
Stiles, good to Giles. It's Malcolm Edwards who takes it down. The ball's come loose. Hopkins is beaten. It's a goal! Yes, it's a goal!
I used to walk over the bridge at Old Trafford when I was a kid with my Uncle Peter and be there, and also with my brother when I got older, and I imagined that the channel was going to announce that there was a player shot and would Norbert Stiles come and get changed. I mean, I could imagine it. So I'd go down there and walk down there and become a player at Manchester United. It was unbelievable.
In the summer of 1962, Dennis Law arrived, launching a spectacular era at Old Trafford. He cost £115,000 and made a menacing start.
Brennan to Giles again, and Manchester United moving this ball very nicely indeed. Giles. Law, and a beautiful goal! What a goal! Well, Dennis Law has scored!
Although United struggled in the league, Law propelled them to Wembley in his first season, scoring the only goal of the semi-final against Southampton at Villa Park. Manchester United were back in the public eye. Their Wembley opponents, Leicester City. And the team that Noel Cantwell introduced included Pat Creran from Celtic. Busby had bought a side to succeed the one he'd built.
This is the kind of super soccer that brings the heart into the mouth. Let's try another. Perhaps they'll pop it in this time. United continued to play great football, but their fans had to wait until the 39th minute for a first goal by Dennis Law. That was the state of the parties as Leicester kicked off for the second half, determined to really get back into the game. But United, with Bobby Charlton putting in some good work, were in command. Hurd got their well-deserved second. Now for one of Leicester's few second-half sorties, with Gibson, number 10, and outside right Riley threatening the goal. Pressure like this produced Leicester's only goal, a beautiful diving header from Keyworth. Even so, they needed more teeth to their attacks if they were to equalise. United remained undisputed masters and got their final goal through Hurd. (3-1). What a great performance from a team that's been under threat of relegation. But that's soccer for you. Noel Cantwell received the cup from Her Majesty to the cheers of United's deliriously happy fans.
For United, it was the start of the swinging 60s. Their FA Cup exploits put United back into Europe, where they met familiar opposition in the Cup Winners' Cup. holders Tottenham built up a 2-goal lead at White Hart Lane to take to Old Trafford.
Sadler's pass finds Hurd. He dives to net a beautiful goal. Now tragedy for Spurs. In collision with Cantwell, Mackay breaks his leg. In this game, the crowd will see no more of the Iron Man. Hurd has the ball. It's a goal. Spurs are 2 down at this stage, but they're still in the game. Even their defence turns to attack. Right full-back Peter Baker is up there to show what he can do. The ball goes to Jimmy Greaves, and it's one for Spurs. United must have 2 more goals to win on aggregate. Bobby Charlton scores. In the dying minutes of the game, Charlton scores again. For Spurs, Cliff Jones tries an overhead kick, and then the game's over. Winners by 4-3 on aggregate. Manchester United have knocked the holders, Spurs, out of the European Cup Winners' Cup.
But United went out in the quarter-final to Sporting Lisbon, despite winning the first leg 4-1 at Old Trafford. The 1963-64 season also saw this young man make his debut. He was discovered in Belfast by Bob Bishop, United's Irish scout, and he developed into one of the finest footballers ever to wear this or any other shirt. In George Best's first full season, United won the championship.
Now it's with Connelly. Across Hurd. Jennings there again, Best. Now, can Creran do it? A goal, a beautiful goal. McClintock. Charlton to Best. Hurd and Law in the middle. Charlton lurking on the penalty area. There's Law, and it's 3-0. Beautiful goal by Law. And Manchester United just carving this Arsenal team apart.
Free kick then to Manchester United. Oh, and this may be the first one. And it is the first one, and it's Law. Vanetti for Chelsea. To McCready. Best. With McCready, and McCready's made a pass. And it's a magnificent goal. Best. What a magnificent goal. A truly brilliant piece of Best. Football there by Best.
Best. Check Charlton. Always the master in the middle in defence. Connelly, and there's the first goal by Connelly. Charlton making it with supreme accuracy to Connelly. Blitz again, Law, that's it. Oh, and Old Trafford, the Celtics loaded.
Best by that time was an established player, scoring goals. David Hurd, who got more or less 20 goals and 20-odd goals every season. Bobby Charlton would knock in his 20 or whatever. Pat Creran with these beautiful long balls down, well, particularly say for me. George Best on there. Bill Fuchs, Nobby Stiles had come into the side. So we were a sort of mixture of everything. We had a mixture of guile, we had a mixture of class, goal scorers, and people who could... A little Nobby.
Who was that?
Occasionally Nobby would, you know, put a little bit of stick
if required.
You know, if required. So we had... To have a championship side, you really have got to have a mixture of all that.
So, blessed with much of the enchanting style and mercurial flair of 10 years earlier, Busby's new team set their sights on the European Cup. In Lisbon's Stadium of Light, Best illuminated the quarter-final, scoring 2 outrageous goals and inflicting on Benfica a 5-1 defeat, their first ever at home in the competition. It was an astonishing performance, and it made Best the talk of Europe. but he broke down in the semi-final and Partizan of Belgrade put United out. It was a case of try again by winning another championship.
Dunn leaving it for number 9, Charlton. Fitzpatrick at best on his right, and here's Hurd. Best moving forward, he's free at the moment. There's Best, a good move. And a fine goal. A fine goal. Corner to Manchester United, being taken by number 10, Hurd. Has to watch for Law. It's a goal by Law. To get through this Burnley defence will take the dribbling skill of a Law or a Best. Or some quick 1-2 wall passes. There's Creran to Best. But that's Law. A goal. Charlton, you'll notice the number 10, Harris, for Burnley, is playing almost a defensive role. A beautiful goal! Oh, that was one out of the blue by Hurd. Sadler. Sadler now to Creran. Charlton moving in. And Law has equalised.
I think the 67 championship probably gave us more joy than any, because I know we had to go down to West Ham, which I think was our last away game, before coming back to Old Trafford. We had a chance on the home game, but we went down there, and it was just one of those games, you know, you think, well, you know, the night before you're hoping everything goes well. Tomorrow, you get out there, there's a huge crowd at West Ham who always played good football anyway, so you always felt that you were in with a chance of doing something in it. And of course, everything turned out absolutely perfect on the day. I think we actually played magnificent football, and I think if my memory serves me right, I think we beat them 6-1, which was a lovely way to win the championship. The only instruction that Busby ever gave really was, well, we know you could play football, go out and play the type of football that you could play, Best, Charlton, Creran, whatever, and if you've tried your best, no matter what the result is at the end of the game, if you've tried your best, I could ask for no more. And that was as simple as that. We used to go through the team, the opposition on a Friday, who was good in their defence or up front. But really, I always hoped that Busby did the team talk on a Friday, because by Saturday, I'd forgot all about it.
Many, many times, when they tried something that didn't come off, that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do. And with it all, I was always very happy that they were a creative side, building up creation rather than destruction.
In Mrs. Fullaway's digs, the word destruction had not yet hit George Best. For now, he was the dedicated follower of fashion in a city which offered him ample distractions and greater temptation than had ever been put before a young sportsman. But at that point, he didn't have to carry the team. There were other stars, and Old Trafford was in for a dramatic season.
But for the purpose of this match, any goalkeeper who dribbles the ball and picks it up again will be penalised. Oh! A fantastic effort. And Jennings has scored for Tottenham. Charlton. Oh, a great goal! Law. Oh, beautiful body swerve to Kidd. Lord Aston in the middle. And here comes Charlton. Oh, a great goal! Oh, that was a goal good enough to win the league, the cup, the Charity Shield, the World Cup, and even the Grand National.
But pursuing the European Cup still motivated and obsessed Matt Busby.
Undone to Creran. Best. Sheer magic by Best.
So United were close again to their holy grail. Best's genius almost enabled them to retain the championship. He scored 28 league goals, and his 2 at Fulham in April put them back on top of the league. But they were pipped by neighbours City on the last day of the season. The European Cup semi-final brought Real Madrid back into United's sights.
Best again. Good flick that was by Best. This is Aston. Again the cue at the far post for the cross if he can get it back. Ran well for him. Best! Oh, beauty! A real good goal!
Would a 1-goal lead be enough in Madrid, where United would be without the injured Law? For Bill Fuchs, a Munich survivor, this was the last chance. And for those who went to Mass, prayers seemed to have gone unanswered when Real led 3-1 at half-time on the night, 3-2 on aggregate. But from Creran's free kick, David Sadler scored to pull the tie round. And then, following more sorcery on the right from Best, United snatched the winning goal from a most unlikely source, the veteran defender, Bill Fuchs. That victory brought unashamed scenes of celebration. The myth and mystique which had shrouded United like a cloak since the crash was suddenly cast off in a torrent of jubilation. Busby could see an end at last to years of anguish. No wonder Creran and Styles were so elated. Bobby Charlton so fulfilled as he led United into the Wembley final.
United's football was full of fire. Enrique had to concede a corner to keep that one out. George Best was in terrific form, but so was Enrique. Benfica weren't going to let United run away with the match. They too showed they meant business. On the showing so far, United were proving the better side. Hard-working Best put the ball out to the left, where Sadler had been playing like a demon. The return centre was a beauty. Charlton headed it home. What a tonic for the fans. United 1 up in the 55th minute and going all out for another one. The match was by no means won. Benfica pulled off a beauty through Grassa. 1-1 and time running out. Stepney was a wonder goalkeeper to stop that rocket from the big cannon boot of Eusebio, and the great Portuguese star sportingly acknowledged it. But that wasn't it. 90 minutes up and still deadlock. The teams were weary, but the fans weren't. With an extra 30 minutes of play ahead, bumps, bruises and tired muscles ached like they'd never ached before. But a wet sponge and a magic massage worked miracles. And so on into the first half of extra time. And what a 15 minutes it was. Stepney collected and fed his forwards. Waiting to receive was mighty Best. He simply walked the ball into the net. What a goal! United in the lead. And that wasn't all. The Busby Babes were raring to go. They hammered Benfica. Watch this fantastic goal. My, oh my, how they cheered Kid, the birthday boy, for that super header. Even Stepney joined in. The Benfica fire had nearly been extinguished. But where United finished, not on your life. Bobby Charlton made it 4-1. Manchester United had well and truly done it. They were supreme soccer champions of Europe. At last, Matt Busby, the maestro of Manchester United, had groomed a team great enough to beat Europe's best. He was king of soccer. His wonderful 11 men were all princes. How they cheered as Bobby Charlton led his men up to receive the handsome outsized trophy. Mr. Wiebacker, president of the European Union of Football Associations, handed it over. This victory didn't belong only to Manchester United supporters. This was a win for Great Britain.
I think the fact that we won the European Cup was the greatest factor in my life, because despite the fact that we won championships and won the cups, we were in Europe, and it was something outstanding that they felt, and they always had this longing, and of course the disaster happened, but I think winning the European Cup at the end of the day was probably the greatest triumph of my career.
Nobody in football, nobody anywhere, begrudged Busby his knighthood, or the right to challenge for the World Club Championship. Against Estudiantes, Styles was sent off in Buenos Aires, where United lost 1-0. And in the second leg at Old Trafford, George Best was in danger of losing a leg. The cynical Argentines scored to make the aggregate 2-0 in their favour. But in the end, it was his head that Best lost, provoked yet again by the savage Medina. Both players were sent off, and there were some ugly scenes before United pulled a goal back through new signing Willie Morgan. The final whistle went just before they got the ball into the net again. Still, there was the European Cup to defend now.
Best. Styles trying to work a position. Best, yes, it's there. Going right into the trouble. Just look at that. Charlton, best again. And finally, forcing the fullback to concede the corner. And then...
I think I felt after 68 when we won it that everyone was talking. It seemed to me that everyone was saying, that's it. You know, we've done what we set out to do. I was 22. You know, I wasn't going to reach my peak for another 7 or 8 years. And I listened to everyone talking about how this is it, we've achieved what we set out to achieve. And it seemed like they were talking as if it was all over. I was only starting, you know, it had only started as far as I was concerned.
Best became an increasingly lonely figure. United went out in the semi-final to AC Milan, and it was Busby's last season as team boss. He handed over to 31-year-old Wilf McGuinness, whose own United career had been ended by injury. Could he dictate to players of his own generation? And could he operate in the shadow of the awesome figure who most players still felt was Manchester United?
I mean, he was sort of the god, Matt Busby. He was the boss, the chief, and whenever anyone spoke to you and mentioned his name, they spoke very reverential. I had a tremendous respect for him, really, before I ever really met him, I think. Jimmy Murphy said, the boss is coming to the match today, you know. Oh. And you were aware of this great being above them.
Yet, for all that, in his first season, McGuinness steered United to 2 cup semi-finals and saw them score some memorable goals.
Best playing the pass as he was moving. Charlton going for a 1-2 and getting it! Oh, what a goal!
In the middle is Morgan and Best. Book could lose it, it's Best! For and through for Best. Here he goes again. Georgie Best. And a chance for Best, here's the hat-trick. There it is eventually. Kidd again. Here's Best. Burns. Right in action right away. Best going through the middle. He's on for 5. There it is, Best. Here's the record. There it is. Georgie Best sets a new scoring record for Manchester United.
It would have been better for Best and McGuinness had United reached Wembley in 1970. But a narrow defeat by neighbours City in the semi-final of the League Cup was followed by more heartbreak in the FA Cup. Billy Bremner scored Leeds' winner in a semi-final marathon. There was a different sort of cup defeat for United at the beginning of McGuinness's second season. Now they got off to a wretched start in the league. It seemed for a while as though their salvation might lie in the League Cup. and in the contribution of one highly exceptional player.
Hollins was done to Best, to Aston rather. Best is up front. There he is, the defence split. Can he do it? He surely must.
But defeat in the semi-final by 3rd Division Aston Villa hastened the end for McGuinness, relieved of first-team duties after 18 months. Frank O'Farrell, a thoughtful Irishman, arrived from Leicester the following summer, at first with a therapeutic effect. United lost only 2 of their first 23 league games. The ageing Stars enjoyed a golden autumn.
Dennis Law running beautifully. Dennis Law there, and the ball is still there. It's free. Dennis Law, and he's scored.
So Neil, Best. Law, yes! Lloyd only set it up for Best. To Charlton. What a goal! Best, who picked up that kid flick. Driven wide. Yes!
McElroy to Best. The crowd not liking it because they think that he got Lee booked. Kids cross, O'Neill, Best, and McElroy!
Still Morgan, Gowling, Law! Oh, yes!
Charlton.
Best!
Coming up to Christmas, United were out on their own as First Division leaders. But in the new year, 7 successive defeats set the alarm bells ringing. Suddenly, United were not just getting beaten, they were losing heavily.
Jones. Lorimer. 5.
O'Farrell needed reinforcements. After a slight hiccup, he prized Ian Storey-Moore out of the clutches of Brian Clough and secured the services from Aberdeen of defender Martin Buchan, a future United captain. The following season, after an awful start, he brought in Ted McDougall and Wyn Davis. But it was too late. United slipped to 1 from bottom, and they crumbled on a dreadful day at Crystal Palace.
Blythe coming in for Palace. And this has been their greatest afternoon. And there's Rodgers. Will this be 5? It's going to be 5. It is 5.
O'Farrell and his assistant Malcolm Musgrove were sacked just before Christmas. Chairman Louis Edwards had to look again for Busby's successor. The players wondered briefly who their next boss would be and where their star performer had gone. Best had fled the nest, announcing he'd retired. Spirits at Old Trafford needed lifting, and within 72 hours the ebullient Tommy Docherty bounced in to oblige. He promptly went north to sign a little man who would become one of Manchester United's most popular players in the 70s, a jack-in-the-box goalscorer. It was a time of change at Old Trafford. In one season, United lost 3 former European Footballers of the Year. Bobby Charlton played the last of his 706 games for the club, having helped ensure First Division safety. Dennis Law joined Manchester City, and Best stayed away. But United's public appeal never wavered. For the next 14 years, they recorded the highest average home attendance in the country, until Liverpool finally overtook them in 1988. What a tribute to the United faithful. In Docherty's first full season, a bearded and bulkier Best made a fleeting reappearance. He was still only 27, but he was on the way out. The game was robbed of a rare talent. Busby prefers to remember best the player.
He was a great individualist, if you like, but had the talent to employ other people at times too. But he had the greatness of sending them the wrong way and side-footing the ball in the back of the net or something like that. You know, he was always a great player,
With the demise of their 60s side, United were a team without stars. Ralph Coates' goal made relegation likely, and it was confirmed in a curious, crestfallen and chaotic manner.
Some will be slotting it through nicely for Bell. Stewart is away on the left. Lee. Pulled across for Law! Dennis has done it! And no elation there at all from Dennis Law.
Law's sadness was matched by the supporters' bitterness. A crowd invasion prevented the match being finished. The result stood and United were down. These incidents led to fences being erected at Old Trafford. United were imprisoned in the second division, an experience they'd not had since the war.
Well, I'd been there a year, so you know the penny hadn't really dropped of how desperate a situation that was. But at the end of the day, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us, because dropping into the lower division was easier for the majority of players. And at the end of the day, the football fan wants to see their team winning. And of course, in the second division, we won.
As it turned out, United took the second division by storm.
Carey. Oh, good ball to Pearson. He waited his moment. Still Pearson. Superbly struck.
Stuart Pearson played a leading role in United's championship, and they swept into the first division with guns blazing. Both Steve Coppell, a graduate from Tranmere Rovers, and on the other wing, Gordon Hill, a sprightly Cockney from Millwall, showed a startling scoring touch. United finished third, Leicester ending their title hopes.
That's nice, though. Alderson, Garland, Greenough. Lee. Oh, yes.
But in the FA Cup, the new United had the appetite of their forefathers.
Powell. Todd well forward. Davis, not a good return ball. Hill, nicely played to Daly. McCreary is up. Hill, trying to count it and does! Gordon Hill! A contrast between the two ends of the ground. Total noise from behind Graham Mosley's goal. And Hill, it was deflected! And that surely ties it up! Gordon Hill's second goal!
To Stokes, who's onside. 1-0. Now, was he offside when that ball was played? They'll complain for years, possibly, about that.
Young players like Brian Greenough were bitterly upset, but there was consolation in the return to Europe in the UEFA Cup. Gordon Hill struck a classic goal against Juventus, as United got the cup-tie adrenaline pumping through their veins again. Doherty took them back to Wembley in 1977, where they found their opponents chasing a treble.
Is Jimmy Greenoff's header on for Pearson? A chance on here. And Pearson is the scorer. McDermott for Liverpool. And there's a saying in football that Liverpool are at their most dangerous when they're behind. That remains to be seen. Jones. Case. Good turn. Oh, yes! Tremendous for the crowd, especially the neutrals, that the match should have opened up in quite that way with 2 goals in 2 minutes. On by Macari. Smith slips slightly. Jimmy Greenoff.
Smith got himself into a bit of a tangle with Jimmy Greenough. He seemed to have got the ball away, but he hadn't, and Macari, possibly off Greenough in the end, and captain Martin Buchan of Manchester United to receive the FA Cup from Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Kent.
We promised you last year we would bring the cup back, and we brought the cup back to the finest supporters in the world.
But the Doc's cure didn't last. Only weeks later, he declared his love for the wife of the physiotherapist. As he said, when one door closes, another slams in your face.
A meeting of the directors has decided unanimously that Mr. Doherty is in breach of the terms of his contract and his engagement is terminated forthwith.
Life at Old Trafford is never dull. As Doherty moved out, his successor soon moved in. Dave Sexton only had Chelsea in common with the Doc. He was a serious student of the game, not given to wisecracks or audacious statements. In his first season, he signed Joe Jordan, Scotland's aggressive World Cup centre-forward, soon to be followed to United by his Leeds clubmate, centre-half Gordon McQueen. In the European Cup Winners' Cup, United beat Saint-Etienne. Gordon Hill's blockbuster was followed by crowd trouble, and the second leg was played at Plymouth. Back at Old Trafford, United went out to Porto.
In the way, Gabriel, Sanino to his right, number 11. Just Oliveira in the middle at the moment for Porto, still Sanino, shooting chance, and it's gone in!
Sexton's diligent work on the training ground paid off in his second season. Jimmy Greenough was displaying his abundant skills and forming a useful alliance with Joe Jordan. Could United reach Wembley again?
Gordon McQueen moving into the area. And it's knotted in at the far post by Joe Jordan. Thomas pulls some space here. Naylor coming to cut it down. Oh, and Kendall caught in two minds. And McElroy makes in a very simple goal.
Thomas, McElroy is just inside, Greenoff is far post, Jimmy Greenoff! Manchester United have scored, and it's the man that got the winner in the final, Jimmy Greenoff! Would you believe it? Buchan and Sunderland now close together. This is Brady trying to shake off Macari. Sweet skills from Brady. Stapleton out on the right, trying to feed Price. Price is in here for Arsenal. Talbot on right and Sunderland the right as well. This is Brady. Good skills from Brady. Two waiting in the centre for the cross. Stapleton! 2-0 to Arsenal. Stapleton scores. Just 4 minutes on the clock. Arsenal 2, Manchester United 0. Free kick to United. Jimmy Greenoff fouled. And they've got to make something of this now, Manchester United, to stay in with a chance of a dramatic recovery in the last few minutes. Left for Coppell. Thomas almost got a flick on, appeals for hands against Jordan. And McQueen! Gordon McQueen turned it in! With a comeback again from Nicol. When he finally gets round to it. Everybody was waiting upfield, and they still are for United. Coppell. McElroy's through. McElroy's through! And McElroy has done it! What drama here! McElroy for United. It's 2-2. There's a minute left on the clock. Brady for Arsenal. Right across, Sunderland! It's there! It's 3-2! Arsenal are back in front for Alan Sunderland.
That mind-blowing finish left Sexton and United disappointed. But that summer he strengthened his hand by signing the England midfielder, Ray Wilkins from Chelsea. United enjoyed a consistent season. In March, Derby Day brought a winning goal from Mickey Thomas, life presidency for Sir Matt, the chairmanship for Martin Edwards at a time of big commercial opportunity.
Everything you do off the field is really only geared to one thing. It's really all the money is ploughed back into the football club, and we spend the money in two ways. We either spend it on players or we spend it on improving the amenities within the stadium. So you need all the other activities and all the business surrounding the club to generate the income to be able to compete in the transfer market for the best players, to be able to pay the top wages and improve the stadium on a year-to-year basis.
Working within that policy, Dave Sexton took United closer to the Championship than they'd been for 12 years. Going into their last match, they were level on points with Liverpool, but United lost at Leeds and were runners-up. The following October, Sexton paid a club record fee of £1.25 million for Gary Birtles.
Here's Birtles. Didn't run quite right for him there. Cross in. Koppel. Is it in? It's there. And it's Jordan.
That was the last of 7 successive wins at the end of 1980-81, but Dave Sexton still got the sack.
Everyone had the wrong impression of Dave Sexton. I think ate, slept, drank football, was interested in nothing else. So, you had a man at Old Trafford now that you couldn't have distracted away from the job of football and the job of Manchester United, which didn't shine through, I didn't think, to the public of Manchester or the public in Great Britain. They saw a dour man, not in the keeping with who they thought should have been at Old Trafford. But they didn't know that that man was, working 24 hours a day to get a team at Old Trafford and to do his best. Possibly at the end of the day, his downfall was he was the opposite from Tommy Docherty.
So United went for a flamboyant figure again. Ron Atkinson quickly bought Frank Stapleton and then broke the British transfer record to sign Brian Robson.
This fella's not even, it's not even a gamble, buying a player like him, because he's pure gold.
Towards the end of Atkinson's first season, the latest prodigy off United's own production line made his bow. Norman Whiteside from Belfast was still 16 when he came on at Brighton. He played in the World Cup weeks later, and the following year he starred in 2 cup finals.
McQueen looks for Whiteside. Took it down beautifully, turned away from Hansen. Whiteside! What a fantastic goal by the 17-year-old. Johnston. Lee. Again, the outlet is the fullback, Kennedy. It's in! Here's Dalglish. Shot struck Macari. Kennedy. Whelan. And again, Whelan's scored it! Brilliant goal! Ronnie Whelan, who got 2 last year against Spurs, has scored the second for Liverpool today. Comes Brian Robson. He's in with a chance. Yes! Oh, Grimes is onside, and so is Whiteside here. Oh, I say! It's amazing! It's fast and furious in this opening quarter of an hour. Grealish square to Smiley. Number 8, Howlett. Chipping one in for Gordon Smith. It's there! There's Duxbury. Nice touch back inside by Davis. Duxbury. Right side, Stapleton! Manchester United equalise after 55 minutes. And Orbiston's made a run from the back, and Wilkins has scored one, and that's absolutely magnificent. Ray Wilkins has put Manchester United in front. Case with the corner. He's pulled it back to Grealish. Little touch for Stevens. 2-2. Case through the middle for Michael Robinson. Can he beat Moran? He can. Can he beat McQueen? He can. There's somebody to his right. It's Smith. And Bailey is saved. And the flag stayed down. Albiston to Whiteside. Albiston again, low in for Davis, who've got a good position. Robson! That's the goal that Manchester United wanted from their captain. Oh, McQueen was doing some climbing there, surely. This is Davis. Turned it in for Whiteside! Muren takes the kick. And the header by Robson finds Stapleton. McQueen made a touch, and it's been fired in! Brian Robson gets his second, and Manchester United's third. And Stapleton. Robson has charged forward through the inside right position. Oh, and he's got behind. Was he held? The linesman flagged. Penalty! Penalty! Stevens on Robson. After 63 minutes. Manchester United, the most famous club in football, have won only their second major trophy in 15 years. Ron Atkinson savours the moment.
It was a happy 74th birthday for Sir Matt. The big question now at the start of the 1983-84 season was whether United were ready to overhaul Liverpool. At first, the answer appeared to be yes.
Good touch by Stapleton, and Wilkins has got Brian Robson through. And the Manchester United captain opens the scoring. So a corner to United. McQueen gets a flick on, off the line, Robson bundled it in. Brian Robson got the final touch after Stapleton's efforts had been cleared off the line. Sir Matt Busby was manager the last time Manchester United won the Charity Shield outright. And he has the privilege of handing it over to the modern captain and match winner, Brian Robson. Graham. Whiteside is in the middle, so is Stapleton, so is Muren. And Graham has got round the back. And Stapleton! So simple.
That autumn of 1983 saw the sad departure from Old Trafford of the purposeful Steve Coppell, cut down by injury. In bidding farewell to him, United's fans welcomed back the big European nights. A 2-0 defeat in Barcelona set up a great occasion in Manchester's theatre of dreams.
United muster the forces on the near post. Whiteside is there, so too is Stapleton. A goal! Robson right on the line. Italia, first by Robson. Schuster finding the back pass cut off by Whiteside. And Whiteside almost in. Urruti as Vitor played it back carelessly. Urruti cleared with the foot. Wilkins and Urruti in trouble. Robson! Robson, who suddenly finds himself on a European hat-trick. And Albiston is onside. Whiteside, Stapleton! 2 goals in 2 minutes. It's a glorious night for Manchester United.
But in the semi-final, Platini, Rossi and Boniek plotted United's narrow defeat by Juventus. That season also saw Mark Hughes make his full first-team debut in a Milk Cup tie at Oxford.
So Wilkins with the free kick to Duxbury. And Hughes came in! And what a start for him!
The following season, Hughes was top scorer in an attack which boasted 3 expensive new signings. There was Jesper Olsen, the little Dane from Ajax, on the left. On the right, Gordon Strachan from Aberdeen, and Alan Brazil arrived from Spurs. In their first year, United reached their 10th FA Cup final.
Quickly seized. Robson gets it back, and the gap was opened up. And that is truly magnificent. 1-1. Busy Strachan once again.
Hughes. The flag stays down. And United are ahead for the third time in the tie.
McGrath. Oh, mistake by McGrath. Getting the through here. Oh! Well, Reid has been brought down by Kevin Moran. And that has to be a booking at the very least. Peter Reid has been brought down. Moran will be booked. But I have a feeling that if Reid could have passed that ball a moment earlier, one of two other... Oh, he tried to, in fairness. He was trying to find Gray. And is he going to be sent off or not? It looks as though Peter Willis is going to send Kevin Moran off. It was the denying of the goal-scoring opportunity, and we could have a player sent off in the FA Cup final for the first time ever. But still, Manchester United playing with great pluck and intelligence, get the ball out, and they've made their own openings already in extra time, and this fellow Hughes is coming into it more and more, and here's Whiteside. Strachan is following up, Olsen on this side. That's all he's got. Whiteside shoots. It's there! Norman Whiteside has done it again. Manchester United win the FA Cup again.
Fired by that typically improvised victory, United started the next season on the crest of a wave. They won their first 10 league matches. The best ever start by a United team. At one time, they were 10 points clear at the top. But then came the backlash. Brian Robson's shoulder collapsed at West Ham. Mark Hughes started talking to Barcelona. And Atkinson finished fourth for the third season running. In the summer of 1986, Manchester United opened their own museum. It was an enthusiast's paradise, but it emphasised again how hard it had become for a succession of managers and players to live with the club's magnetic past. Time caught up with Ron Atkinson the following November. United were 19th in the table when he was asked to vacate his space. Chairman Martin Edwards had to consider public opinion.
The fans were frustrated. I could understand that. There was a suggestion, which may be the case, that the gates were going to fall because of the results hadn't been good enough. And I would say this now: Martin Edwards never put me under any pressure. Let me get on with it. And I didn't feel that whatever pressure was supposed to be heaped on him was reflected in his attitude towards me.
Atkinson's successor, Alex Ferguson from Aberdeen, had boyhood memories of Manchester United.
When I was a young boy, I don't know if you remember a tournament way back in the Coronation Cup, was to celebrate the Queen's coronation year, 1953. And I went to see Manchester United twice. They beat Rangers in a Wednesday night game and then lost to Celtic in the following Saturday. And those games had the biggest crowds. And of course you had Tottenham, Newcastle, who were the top sides at the time, Arsenal and Manchester United, and the four top Scottish sides. And yet Manchester United, even back in 1953, had the biggest crowds.
His awareness of United's mighty tradition seemed to fuel Ferguson rather than frighten him. He first recognised the need for a genuine goal scorer and spent wisely on Brian McClair from Celtic. In his first season, McClair scored 31 goals, 24 of them in the First Division. The first United player to top 20 league goals since Best 20 years earlier. But once again, the team United could not surpass was Liverpool.
McMahon! Oh, a shame. That's got to be one of the best goals of the season, even by Liverpool standards. Strachan making a lovely run through the middle. He's onside. Gordon Strachan with a chance to equalise, and does. What a turn-up. The 10 men have come back from 3-1 down to 3-3.
Ferguson's team lost just 5 games. Second position equalling United's best since they last won the title 21 years ago. It's been a preposterously long wait for those who make the regular pilgrimage to the Mecca of football stadia. Nowhere is there a more captivating arena in which to parade the pride and panache that goes with the world's most widely followed football team. United have gathered fans and fan clubs on all continents, and those fans expect the best. Would the return at the start of the 1988-89 season of Mark Hughes, together with the acquisition of Scotland's goalkeeper Jim Leighton, edge United towards that title they last won in 1967? Or has the championship become an impossible dream?
Maybe a lot of players think they can't win it now. I haven't been so long, which is why we've got to have a fresh, hungry side to meet the challenge. That if there's some players who think they can never achieve winning that league, even though it's 21 years, it's not their fault entirely. They can only be responsible for the period that they've been here. But they have to accept the responsibility of doing something about it, changing that, and they will become the heroes.